I don't know.
Well, it's,
I'm not comfortable. I know 100% of it yet.
Right, exactly.
Good morning. Welcome to this meeting of the Energy and Environmental Committee for King County. My name is Mavis Bates, and I am delighted that I am here and that you are here. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Caius,
Vice President.
Roth,
Roth here.
Strathman,
Strathman here.
Young,
Young here.
Tarver,
Tarver here.
Bates.
Dave's here.
You have a quorum in the room.
Okay, thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve and
Madam Chair, can I ask about voting for Strathman?
Strathman has been excused and
I just-
will be voting today. Thank you, Mr. Caius.
I have a question about that. Does
Yeah.
that, does that need to be approved by the committee chair or by the members? How does that,
I should ask if there's any objection.
oh, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
sorry. Okay,
Left
so if
that
there's,
Hmm.
okay,
Is there any objection? Hearing none, we will
Was
move
it-
right along.
Point of order, just to clarify, if there was an objection, I believe we have to vote on it then,
okay,
but if there's no objection.
right. So,
obviously-
so I guess the procedure is if we have someone that is going to be zooming in, then you have to.
Madam
make sure
Chair,
there's No objection to that.
Right,
Got it.
and they
Okay.
have to notify prior to the meeting.
Right. Oh, I understood that, but I just wanted,
Ms. Strathman, is that your voice?
yes, I'm sorry, my sound is cutting in and out. I think I met the protocol but my sound cut out. Will I be allowed to vote today?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know. Good morning, everybody.
with an excused absence, you may vote, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
And if
Uh,
it
but
was,
the excused absence is up to the committee chair to make sure that they're okay with that absence.
and that's who we're supposed to contact, correct?
Mhm.
Well,
Right.
make sure you get,
Who else did you send that to, Ms. Strathman? There was a number on there I didn't know. Oh, okay.
you should send it to both the office, like in the Forest Preserve, Gabby, and then the office as well.
Do we all know that office number? I think we received it once a very long time ago,
It was in that email that came out.
a long time ago.
It's online.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
You can
So,
email it in.
so Ms. Strathman let me know a couple days ago. Okay, Ms.
Because I'll be doing that occasionally because of my business. So I just wanted to make sure that I would follow that
Right,
protocol.
so family, emergency, personal health and work.
Yep.
Work.
Okay.
So you qualified it. Yay.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want me in there this morning.
How are you?
Absolutely.
Well,
How are you doing?
I am still doing fine and I intend to stay that way, but I don't want to take any chances sharing with anybody.
Okay. I'm not, I am keeping her confidentiality, so you can
Say,
blab
according
if you want to.
according to HIPAA, can you even ask? I'm just joking.
Well, we are
Let's not
not
go there.
HIPAA regulated, but I'm sure there's many other regulations. I'm
Okay.
still a licensed acupuncturist, so I.
There you go.
Well, there's a loophole.
Moving right along, did we approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, I would ask that we approve the minutes by unanimous consent.
Roth will second that.
No,
Any,
no second
Are we
necessary,
in consent?
without objection.
Thank
Okay.
you very much. No objection.
No.
Is there any public comment online or in person? Hello, back in the peanut gallery. Okay, environmental. Let's move along to Ms. Walnick, please.
Thank you. I'll just wait for Blair to pull it up here a second.
Am I supposed to?
Was there no public comment?
I asked. I think we have an observer, a visitor.
Good. Yep, it's it. Okay. Great, thank you. I just wanted to give the committee a quick update on our three groundwater studies that are ongoing with Illinois State Water Survey. We had a kickoff meeting on May 25th. It was hosted by Illinois State Water Survey. Dan Hadley, Cecilia Cullen, and Daniel Abrams were the presenters at that meeting, and it was well attended by our municipalities, and they had great feedback and comments. So I wanted to bring some of the slides forward to the committee. So as we move forward through this process, that you're up to date. And then when we get to the final report, that you have all the background information relative to the projects.
Ms. Wolnick, to put this into context, is this the study that is using ARPA money?
That is correct.
So here is your ARPA, the American Rescue Plan at work.
Correct.
So
I
good.
did fail to mention that. Thank you for reminding me. So this is one study with three components. The first part being the assessment of the shallow groundwater sustainability, and that project will run through December of 2025. We also have the real-time monitoring network that will be available to our municipalities and all of our citizens that will be hosted on a website. That will be through 2026. And the assessment of the shallow groundwater quality, which is being done this fall. So to kind of go through in a little bit more detail, the first item being the sustainability analysis. We're currently in phase 1, which will run through July of 2024. And a lot of this is retrieving background data and information from our municipalities. Many of them have water quality data that they've been testing over the many years. Some of them have level monitoring in their wells. And Illinois State Water Survey will be working with them directly on determining what data is available and what can be utilized for the modeling efforts. They will also be working with them on their long-term plans for their water system and their expansion as well as their population projections. So we have the most accurate data going into the model. Phase 2 will start in August of 2024, run through July of 2025, and that will begin to estimate sustainability supply at a municipal level, as well as evaluate any kind of contamination that is occurring within that shallow aquifer system. And the final phase will be phase 3 that will run through December of 2025, which will be report. So when we're talking about this water supply study and modeling, we have to be aware that there's 3 different tiers relative to groundwater modeling. Tier 1 is really a regional model, and that model really exists for our region. It's multiple states. And it gives us the boundary conditions of what we're looking at on a county level. Tier 2 is also been developed by the county back in the early 2000s era. It hasn't been updated in about 20 years. And so that's kind of the basis of where we're going to start with our modeling efforts. This will be, however, a tier 3 analysis, which is a municipal level analysis. And so this has not been done countywide in our region. And so we're really the test case to be looking at groundwater sustainability on a municipal level. So the next piece of the project is project number 2, which is our groundwater monitoring network. We will be looking up to 15 sites, and we're going to be focusing a lot on the St. Charles Bedrock Valley, which supplies many of our municipalities along the Fox River. And we're looking specifically at some existing wells that are out there and putting this telemetry on those wells, specifically the Kenyon Farm, Fox River Bluff East, Sour Came, and the Alden Underwood Prairie. And so we're hoping to install 5 of those a year for the next 3 years for a total of 15 sites. And this will really feed a lot of data into the model as to real-time information as to the raising and lowering of aquifer levels, what happens during drought conditions, what happens during withdrawals, And we'll also provide that information on a long-term basis to our municipalities.
Can you describe the colors? Because I can't read the.
The
purple.
yellows are the new and the blacks are the current.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
So then the third project is the contaminants of concern in the shallow aquifer system. This is a study that was repeated in 2003, 2015, and now we're going to repeat again in 2023. The reason we're doing this on these intervals is to get a trend line of the increases in our contaminants in our shallow aquifers. If you recall from the 2015 report, we actually had to add a new category for the chlorides because they had increased so high that our maximum little dot was not big enough. And so we are seeing these change significantly over time. And so to inform that model in that first phase of the first project that we're working on, we need these trend lines to give us an idea at which point our shallow aquifer system is either going to require more treatment or economically will just not economically be able to be treated anymore for the human derived contaminants and naturally occurring contaminants that are within that aquifer system. So water supply planning wise, if you have an aquifer that becomes too contaminated or too costly to treat, then you're going to be looking for additional sources for water, whether that be a deep aquifer or a surface water system. And that's something the study will show. What is our time frame for these levels of concern to reach a point at which municipalities may have to make a different decision? So the project timeline for this, like I mentioned, is actually this fall. They'll be collecting samples in September, analyzing those samples through December, and then we'll have a report to bring back to the committee in June of 2024 with the final results. But like I said, those results will then be used for the continuing efforts in the project number 1. Any questions?
Are they measuring, you know, one of these new terms that came out within the last couple of years, the forever chemicals?
The PFAS, correct, yes.
PFAS?
yeah,
I haven't heard
yeah.
that term.
That's not something that's being modeled, however, because the movement of it through the aquifer system is not something that you can model currently. And so it's data we're collecting for the use of determining whether at some point that would require treatment, but it's going to be the chlorides and the total dissolved solids that are modeled in the modeling.
So that's the one that says PFAS. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Caius?
This is Caius, yes. In the phase 1 there, the distribution of the sampling is existing wells and new wells, and it's primarily in the center part of the county. Is there a particular reason that it's there and not farther north and in the other, like in the green areas, or I'm guessing those are different water?
Are you talking about this map?
Yes.
Yes, because that's the analysis is for the shallow aquifer system, and that's where we're missing a lot of data. We have a lot of data on the deep aquifer system, and so we're using existing wells and telemetry on that system. So we're looking for the areas where we're missing data, and that's mainly in that St. Charles aquifer, which you see in the red. Those other areas, we have sufficient data that in a lot of those areas aren't using the shallow system. They're using the deeper bedrock aquifers.
So that went over there. Thank you. That makes sense.
Any more questions?
You thought you were being excluded, huh?
Pardon me?
He thought he was being
That's right.
excluded.
Hey, how come there's none up north? What's going on here?
A
No.
little north end envy.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. When we talk about the deep aquifer is still non-rechargeable?
It's rechargeable in the matter of thousands of years, so not in anyone's
Right.
lifetime.
Okay.
And so we already know we're utilizing more water out of that system than we're replenishing. And so if the decision makers decide what there's issues and contamination issues that are too costly to treat in the shallow system, it potentially drives more people in that deep system that's already determined not to be sustainable. And so that's something we want to find out through the study is what is our horizon at which the potential of treatment or going to another supply is going to be necessary in that shallow system.
How might this study address future development?
We're using the CMAP data projections for population. And so when we're projecting out the supply and the demands, we're utilizing those projections.
Because I'm concerned that we may overdevelop in King County beyond our water capacity.
It's something that I believe that we'll be seeing through the study because those projections will include water use from that new population.
Okay.
And we're seeing kind of the water conservation where there's the turnover between high water use fixtures to more water conservation fixtures is kind of leveling out. So if you look at the City of Aurora's water use data, they were using more water in the 2000s than they're using now. And so their water use over time has actually dropped, but that will level off with the additional population that you'll get to a point where those two intersect.
Mhm.
And now your water use is going to start rising again. And so that's data that's all fed into the model that some of these municipalities have actually seen a drop in water use over time.
Well, I'm hoping that this study will help us project our development capacity, capabilities.
Or demand.
Not overdevelop where we don't want to put people where they can't have water. So let the corn, let the corn grow there. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Oh, Mr. Roth.
You said like for the next 5 sites, you're going to identify, what's the qualifications to identify?
The sites for
For
it's-
period 2, you said here.
Yeah, it's the missing data from the model and where we need more data to make the model as accurate as can be.
Okay.
So we're going to be looking at first existing wells because it's more costly to drill a well, obviously, than to just put telemetry on an existing well. And they have some very good options in the areas that they need additional data. I would just, if I can just comment on the corn too, the corn is actually a concern as much as the population. As we see the climate kind of adjusting, we're seeing agricultural irrigation moving further and further north. And so as you can imagine, the worst time of year that whereas a residence kind of uses a little bit more in the summer, that's when you need your water supply to be sufficient. There's no regulations on those irrigation systems for agriculture, and they can use a ton of water. So we currently, by my records, only have one agricultural area for sod that's being irrigated currently. But I think the trend is we're going to see more of that. So that doesn't necessarily save us any water.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Ms. Wolnick. Okay, thanks.
Not to scare you.
Next on the agenda, I think, is Ms. Ryan. Yes, Ms. Ryan.
All right, so we're talking about plastic bags again. I gave my first presentation on this topic, I think it was either January or February, probably February. And we kind of took a look at what municipalities have done in Illinois related to plastic bags. We looked a little bit at whether it made any kind of sense for King County to do that for our unincorporated areas, pulled the data, took a look at it, decided, no, that makes no sense. So today I'm looking at kind of state approaches, like what some of our neighboring states and states around the country have done, what successes and problems they've seen, and whether it might, and what Illinois has done to date as well, and then just kind of discussion on those points. So this slide is actually a repeat of one from the earlier presentation, just a refresher of why we care about this issue, but with a couple of additions, which have underlines. I got actually between that presentation and this one, a really impactful call from a resident I meant to actually write out a transcript. I invited him to come talk, but he didn't feel very comfortable doing that. But I forgot. So you're gonna have to put up with my paraphrasing for now. But if anyone wants like an actual transcript, I can do that. So this gentleman is a farmer in unincorporated Sugar Grove Township. And he basically said, every time there's a major wind event, there are plastic bags blown into my cornfields. They fall right out of the sky. And when I go to till that field, I have no choice but to till that plastic straight into the soil. There are all these studies finding microplastics and plastic components in food and in human bodies. And he's like, it's not a stretch of the imagination to see how it gets there when your farmers are tilling plastic into the ground. And the other element of that too is a tiller, a rotary tiller, has the same moving parts that get jammed up in a recycling facility when plastic bags entwine them. So it makes operation of what is already pretty dangerous equipment even more dangerous for our farmers. And that can extend even to small lawn care equipment too. I'm not sure to what extent it does, but I wouldn't want to try and pull a plastic bag out of like a big ride-on mower. The other kind of developments are related to recycling of single-use plastic bags. So one estimate I came across between then and now is that only about 10% of 100 billion bags used every year in the United States are recycled. So that's 90 billion bags being landfilled every year. And there was an ABC news report. It was nationwide, but it played on our Chicago ABC affiliate, that certain national retailers, Target and Walmart, are actively misleading the public about the fact of the plastic bags they're collecting and saying are being recycled. So ABC invested some money in AirPod trackers, their little GPS units that will tell you where something is for about 3 months till they run out of battery. And I can't remember the exact percent, but it was like more than 75% of those put into plastic bag recycling in Walmart and Target stores were found in landfills. So not good. If anyone wants to know, like I do believe the Jewel program is real because they tell you who their downline is, who they're selling their bags to.
Jewel is for real?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so on that positive note, let's take just a quick look at a national picture of state bag legislation. This map is very helpful, but it's not completely accurate. Rhode Island, very small state, but it should be green. Massachusetts is kind of a de facto green because all of their municipalities have regulations. You'll see Illinois is kind of is in a sea of yellow, which is that's a preemption. All those yellow states have not done anything on the state level on bags, but they've said to their municipalities, you can't pass your own thing. Yeah, so clearly this had gotten more legs on the West Coast than the East Coast, Northeast. So when we look at those bans, let's go back 1 second. So you've got approximately a dozen states with a ban of some type of single-use bag. So when you look at them and compare them to each other, there are certain exclusions, so things they're not regulating that most of them have in common. So the idea isn't to prevent people from buying packaged bags for garbage, dog, pet waste, food storage, etc. Those are always exempt. Reusable bags that are made from plastic or any other material are generally always exempt, but the definitions and standards of when a plastic bag is reusable versus when it's not can vary a little bit. Bags used to hold bulk items. So these are pretty much any bag you would use in the grocery store before you get to the checkout counter. Those are pretty much universally exempt. Dry cleaning bags, newspaper bags often are. Bags used to hold prescription medication and those newspaper bags and things that kind of protect items from spilling on other things like flowers and live plants, that kind of thing. So there are a lot of common exemptions. And then there are some fun, weird ones too. In the Northeast, I think they have a fairly large live seafood market. So if you're selling live seafood, you can bag it. So a few states exempt all small and independent stores. And that definition can vary as well. Door hanger bags, I don't even really know what those are.
That's
but
for politics.
yeah, oh, okay.
It's Mavis.
We know what that is.
And then when you get down to the 9%, that's just one state doing it. One state exempts bags that used to hold vehicle tires. What? You know, that one blew my mind. I just imagine it has to be part of some other law they didn't want to like run afoul of. Interestingly, only one state, is California. Only one state really believes in the compostable plastic bag at this point. California does have much better composting infrastructure than most of the rest of the country, and that could be why. So a lot of these bag bans also have a fee inside as well. So just over half of the states that ban certain bags also require a fee on the allowable bags. So one state doesn't, but they say to their municipalities, hey, if you want to put fees on these bags, you can. One state transitioned from a total fee structure, so fees on the paper and plastic bags, to a ban of the same. And then across the states, you see that the amount we're talking about is generally 5 to 10 cents per bag. It can be a flat fee that the law says, hey, this is what you're going to charge, or it could be a minimum saying you have to charge at least this much. In 71% of these instances, so clearly a majority, the entire amount of that fee is kept by the retailer. In one state, the retailer is required to use the fee towards education and compliance, but in most cases, it's just, you know, you got to keep this money, do whatever you want with it. Okay, and then a number of states do require that fee to be waived for items purchased with food assistance. It's not supposed to be, in these cases, about nickel and diming people who are already facing a lot of financial hardship. A few additional regulations we see on paper bags. So kind of how these work, just to sum it up a little better. The plastic bags, single-use plastic bags are banned. Usually paper bags are allowed, but you're gonna pay 5 to 10 cents for paper bags. And reusable bags are obviously allowed. You're probably gonna pay a lot more when you first purchase one of those than 10 cents, but then you can bring it back and use it over and over. So one state actually bans paper bags completely at large grocery stores in addition to the plastic bags. So that's New Jersey. And I'll talk more about them in a little bit. But if you go to a grocery store in New Jersey, you have really no option other than to not use a bag, bring your own bag, or buy a reusable bag. Several states have a minimum post-consumer recycled material requirement. It's usually between 20 and 40% of the material should be post-consumer recycled. Several states ban non-recyclable components on paper bags. These ones in the picture are fine. They're just like a little paper, kind of twisted paper loop. That's no problem, but sometimes people stick plastic handles on them, and it's not a great idea for recycling. And then one state has a minimum paper weight just to kind of ensure quality. And one state requires specific info about the post-consumer content and bag reuse and recycling, et cetera, be printed on the bag. So going to all this effort, it's always important, I think, with any regulation to take a look back and say, is this actually working? And is there a difference in how well it's working between different styles of regulation, in this case, between a ban and between the fee element? So when I'm looking at that, I'm kind of asking two questions. The first being, is the regulation meeting its intended goals or stated purpose? Often that's baked right in the kind of the preamble of the law. And in this case, invariably, the purpose is to reduce the use of single-use bags and associated environmental problems. Now, the second question is whether there are any unintended or unforeseen consequences that need to be taken into consideration in the overall view that maybe are making it less effective or creating new problems no one even thought of. So let's take a look at fees first and see if fees have the intended impact of reducing the use of single-use bags. The most comprehensive data set that I was able to find actually came from Chicago. And it compared pre and post fee implementation bag use among Chicagoans. And it also used a paired design where they were comparing the behavior of people living in the city to those living in a demographically paired community just outside of the city. It was tricky. They did have to kind of focus on, especially in the city, on communities where people are assumed to be driving to the grocery store, not using transit, because obviously using transit limits the amount you can buy and the amount you can carry, and therefore the amount of bags you might have. So they did think of that. Over the course of the study, they collected 25,000 or more, slightly more total observations. So this was a nice big data set. And they found that after the fee was implemented, the fee being 7 cents on both paper and plastic single-use bags, a grocery shopper in Chicago was 27.7% less likely to use any disposable bag of any type, 15.5% more likely to use at least one reusable bag, and 12.5% more likely not to use any bags at all. There's a couple different things that could be going on there. It could just be someone running in for their lunch and they say, oh, I don't need a bag, carried out under the arm. Or it could be people are just putting stuff back in their cart, taking it out to their car and loading it into totes or boxes or something in the car. So number of different potentials. On the graphs there, the kind of the gray part shows the pre-tax period. So that set of observations, interestingly, before the fee, Chicagoans were already more likely to use reusable bags and used fewer disposable bags per trip than their suburban counterparts. And you see when the fee got implemented, the disposable or single-use bag use dropped pretty precipitously. It did come up a little bit after that. This is all pre-COVID too. That after during COVID data was probably pretty wild, but they didn't collect it. So, and then on the other side, Chicagoans after the fee was implemented started using a lot more reusable bags, and then you do see a little modulation there too. Like it goes down a little bit and settles, but it's still significantly less disposable bags, more reusable bags than in the suburb that does not have the fee. So now let's look at a ban and whether those impacts bag use. There's really only one study on it out of New Jersey, and it's very recent. You can see May 4th of this year. They surveyed the grocery and convenience stores that were impacted by this and then extrapolated the data to the larger population instead of doing observation-based work. And their conservative estimate was that just over 2 billion single-use plastic bags are not being used per month, which would be close to 25 billion bags per year. They also estimate, because they also ban paper bags at the grocery store, that about 13.7 million single-use paper bags are not being used, totaling about 110 million bags a year. And then in an ecological standpoint, like, are we actually seeing a reduction in the natural environment? Yes, their beach cleanup project found a reduction of 37.3% of plastic bags being found compared to the previous 5-year average. And then just a little kind of fun fact at the bottom, restaurants in New Jersey were also impacted by this. They are allowed to use the paper bags, but not plastic. And they kind of surveyed them just to ask, you know, how was this to implement for you? Did it rock your world, or was it, you know, just a thing you had to do? And they were expecting a pretty negative response. And that's not what they got. They got about half people saying this was no problem, half people saying this was a real pain, and a lot just kind of indifferent. So I think, you know, they were pretty happy with that because they expected a lot more kind of pushback than they got. In terms of unintended consequences, I didn't really find anyone talking about unintended consequences of a bag fee. With the bans, they do come up. So one being that this is anecdotal. There isn't real data on this, but I 100% believe it happens. People treat reusable bags like disposables and just throw them out without reusing them. And part of the problem is that the kind of evolution of this type of bag. So plastic bags are measured in terms of mils, which is, I think, thousandth of an inch thickness, a hundredth of an inch, thousandth of an inch. And to be reusable, a bag has to be 4 mils, which is only twice as thick as a regular plastic bag. So you've got this thing, it looks exactly like, more or less, the old version is just a little bit thicker. There's some writing on here. Who reads their plastic bags? At the end of the day, people are just treating this as a disposable item. So one potential solution, maybe the fees make more sense than bans on this. Another thing that's coming up in New Jersey are people are starting businesses to go collect bags from people, take them to a central location, sanitize them, and get them back in circulation instead of people having their own kind of hoard in their basement or garage or whatever. In New Jersey, people who use grocery delivery services, things like Instacart, were accumulating just mountains of reusable bags that they had no use for because Instacart wasn't allowed to deliver their groceries in single-use plastic or paper. And people weren't going to the store to reuse them. So again, you have the basic same two elements of a potential solution there. And then finally, you do find, and there is peer-reviewed data on this, that after a ban, people buy more packaged bags for things they would have used a single-use bag for prior, leading to up to about 28.5% less impact. And this is stuff like pet waste and like garbage can liners. So again, maybe a fee makes more sense because people are probably more likely to spend 10 cents for a few plastic bags for dog waste than they are to go buy like a $7 giant jumbo pack or whatever. Or just educate on other options. I think there aren't many other options for pet waste, but bin liners, you know, do you really need them? Depends. And just a recent history of what the state has looked at for plastic bags in Illinois. House Bill 3335 was introduced during the 101st General Assembly. It included a 10-cent fee on all single-use bags with revenues split up between retailers and various state and local funds. Just to note, this is pretty different than what other states have done, giving the entire fee to, for the most part, to the retailers. In March 5th of 2020, so when COVID was just a twinkle in all of our collective eyes, the bill had 855 witness slips filed. Just less than a third of filings were in support. Just over 2/3 were in opposition. Some big lobbying groups, including retailers, manufacturers, all sorts, plastic film people, came out to oppose it. And then along came COVID. So this committee, or actually not this committee, sorry, the executive committee reviewed a resolution to support this piece of state legislation in April of 2020 and ended up tabling it because it seemed like a really bad time to tell people they had to reuse items from home in the grocery store that they were afraid to go to begin with. And the bill was filed session sine die So basically it died with no action when that General Assembly closed in 2021. So next steps and questions. Does this committee here today wish to pursue or see any value in pursuing a resolution in general support of a future state single-use bag regulation? And if so, would we want to put any concerns about other plastic use in there? You know, there's a million you could think of: polystyrene foam, drinking straws, coffee stirrers, splash guards, utensils, single serve condiments. City of Chicago does have an upon request plastic utensils ordinance. That means if you pick up food, you have to ask if you want forks and spoons and all that with it. So that's what I got.
Okay, so thank you, Ms. Ryan. Are there any questions? Mr. Roth?
During COVID, all of a sudden, all these signs are out, do not use reusable bags. What was the reasoning behind? I know there was a lot of things originally we thought, like surface contamination, which turned out to not be true. Of course, they never really published that on, page 1 was
No,
published, and then page 30, they took
Yeah.
the take back.
you're exactly right. It was primarily just because we didn't know if it was surface transmitted or not. And then we found out it wasn't. And the grocery stores were very slow to change their signs for reasons that are.
Well,
probably
not just
to
that,
them.
everywhere, really. to
Sure,
be honest, right?
everywhere. Yeah. And I mean, it was mentioned at our last meeting that reusable bags are often pretty gross because people don't wash them or store them in ways that that keep them clean. And that's true. But there isn't really any evidence that people actually get sick from it. It's just kind of skeevy.
Now, is there any standard on reusable bags? Because there's different sizes. In fact, a lot of the reusable bags are really 0 to 1 use, because like the handles break as soon as you lift it up.
Some of the states that have the regs have passed some standards. California went all out. They have like almost a manual on what constitutes a reusable bag. I'm actually writing a series of plastic reusable bag reviews in Kane County Connects. Parts 1 and 2 have been done. I think they're published, and then part 3 will be next week. And I totally agree. Not all bags are made the same. My
I mean, they're made
favorites
so
actually-
they're made
yeah,
so cheaply that, the handles rip. So it's a 1-use bag anyway. And then the
yeah.
next question, are reusable bags recyclable at the point they're not usable?
It depends what it's made of. Cotton canvas bags are. It's kind of downcycling. They're shredded up, but
Right.
they are. The same will go for woven. Some woven plastics like nylon can be recycled. I would say the non-woven, probably propylene, and some of the others are not.
So, I mean, long term, I think we need to have a standard on what makes a decent reusable bag, and that it is also at some point recyclable, and also that it lasts longer than one
Yeah,
use.
no matter what bag it is, it does have to be used a minimum of, I think, 25, 30 times
Okay.
to make it less.
And a lot of the bags I've seen would never last that long.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's kind of a,
They give them away for free. They can't be that quality.
or they're selling them, which is, like, some of the Walmart bags, they sell them for $1, and there really are about 1-use bags.
Well, Mr. Caius had his hand up.
Oh,
I think you were finished, correct?
I'm done.
Okay.
No, I'll hold
The-
it up.
You're up next. Caius here. I think to point out that going back a couple of things, taking groceries out to the car without bags is because you forgot and left the bags in the car every time that you go in and
Is
shop.
that how you do
Not that I have ever done that,
it?
Dan. And then the other question back in the basics of this is, I know the plastic bags are totally offensive when you're walking along, they're hanging in the tree and flattering and stuff like that. What percentage of the total plastic contamination, do we have any estimate of? I know they're very obvious because I see them. Matter of fact, when I walk my neighborhood, I usually have a grabber and I can find bags to start picking up garbage and recycling. pretty quickly, but is it like straws? It seemed like everybody wanted to not have straws, but it's such a small little teeny tiny piece of.
There are definitely litter studies like the New Jersey one, where they're looking at how many instances of their total instances of litter are plastic bags versus other things. In terms of like weight or volume, yeah, like plastic bags are never gonna weigh highly because they're so thin and so light. However, that thinness and lightness helps them become microplastic a lot faster than, say, if someone throws, I don't know, like an iPod that's mostly plastic in the dirt. That's gonna take hundreds of years to turn into anything. The plastic bag will be gone within
This
a
is
year.
gonna outlast. This is a reusable container, by the way. recyclable.
Caius is holding up a.
Don't wash it at high temps.
water bottle.
And why would that be?
There's
Those-
chemical.
They do, it's mostly sunlight. UV does break those down.
I'd like to bring us back to these, may I, to these next steps that Ms. Ryan has posted. Does the E&E wish to pursue a resolution in general support of future state single-use bag regulations? If so, should it address any other single-use plastic concerns? I would like to say that I would like consensus from this committee right now that we can move forward on an ordinance. And may I have consensus?
I'm sorry,
Ms. Lewis,
not on the committee, so I can't give you my consensus, but
that's okay.
um,
Go ahead.
Anita Lewis, is there anything that is in the legislation now that, okay, so maybe the first thing we would do is get with, I know Matt Hansen's a big proponent of doing this, because
Uh-huh.
when he was on the legislative committee, he's the one that was helping do it. So maybe the first thing is to reach out to our local people and say,
Right.
hey, can a bill get brought forward? I mean, if we think that is the right thing to do.
Mhm. So may I have consensus from nods? Yes, any
No.
objection? Pardon me?
No for me.
You're a no on,
Maybe I think we need to get more information. I mean,
Okay.
you mentioned that you thought California was probably the farthest along. Like they're doing bags that decomposed or whatever.
They have an allowance for compostable bags.
Right.
They also have a lot of industrial sized compost facilities that we right now don't have in Illinois, hopefully sometime.
Okay. I think we need to get more
Sure.
facts before we
Okay.
move on. The other is, has anyone talked to the agricultural department? They actually have 4 research labs in the country that does a lot of basic research.
which agricultural department?
USDA?
SDA.
Yeah.
And there's actually one in Peoria, Illinois.
Good.
And the reason I know that, my dad worked there. He was a chemist.
Okay, insider information. Good.
Yes. And they do a lot of basic research. I mean, they did the original development of what became the Pringle
Became what?
chip. They developed that because they're looking for what are the best uses of agricultural crops. My dad did
The
research,
what chip?
the Pringle chip.
Pringles. and
Pringles.
cans
Oh, okay, I thought I was
In the
thinking
can.
agriculture.
Yeah, in the can.
In the can.
bag.
The
And
thing
And my
is-
dad actually did research on,
And it's not recyclable.
on plants, based off of how much hydrocarbon, how much oil during the 70s.
Fantastic.
So I would think we should approach them to see,
Okay.
have they done any research on using soybeans or whatever to, that would decompose.
I'm seeing something in the chat. Oh, Ms. Gums, the legislative committee would love to work through these issues if you would like to bring it forth. The state's attorney has asked that all comments be verbal since chat is not part of the public record under the Open Meetings Act, which I just now verbalized. So thank you, Ms. Gums. And so we will work this through the E&E committee and then we will talk to legislative, and Mr. Caius has
Yeah,
his hand
Same
up.
point. I think you're right. I think we need more information and we need more education. And the concern is that with your research, Claire, it shows that the support, if I read this pie chart correctly, 32% support. on-
Yeah, at that time, 32% in
and
support.
Opposing 67%. I think we should go after whatever sources of plastic pollution we can find and recycle and do whatever we can. But I think we need to pick our argument or pick our battles And if we're already just 1/3 of the whole battle, let's make sure we're at least got a fighting chance of getting it through. So let's work
Mhm.
with other entities, get more information, that kind of.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to go through the opposition and see where it was coming from. I'm sure it's a lot of different areas, but it'll take a while because there's like 500
Yeah.
comments.
So I think we have a consensus, not a unanimous consensus, but a consensus that we can move forward on this. So would you bring this back to us with a little more specifics on what it would take to support a bill in Illinois?
Sure,
Okay.
I can do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm very concerned about ending this meeting on time for Madam Chair of the Jobs Committee. Ms. Clee, well, we have the memo. Is that you, Ms. Wolnick?
Yes, it is. I was the one that put forward the very sad memo to the committee that Ms. Clee has accepted a new position and will be unfortunately leaving us at the end of the month. And so she has some great slides coming up here with some photos of her time here at Kane County, but she will be greatly missed. And we certainly enjoyed working with her the last 2.5 years. And she'll be big shoes to fill for this next person coming in. So with that, however, I wanted to put this memo forward to the committee and get some feedback because we have been following the budget policy discussion that the board has been having. Our department is locked in with the salaries that we have, with the staff that we have. And so what this means is that in posting Ivy's position, it had a range of when we posted it previously. And I cannot, with the budget that we have, even post the range for her salary that we previously had. And so I think it's part of my confusion how I move forward with this. We do have the position currently posted. I've provided you with the data from the previous sustainability manager positions that were at the county. The salaries in 2023 dollars for the last 3 folks that have been in that position were $66,700. $70,700 and $91,000. And I would say the range of salaries in this position has been greatly different because of the experience and the number of programs that were going on at the time that those folks were in that position. We actually had 2 engineers that have been previously in that position. So it's a highly skilled Bachelor of Science degree position, and it warrants that salary. So we posted the position with 70,000 to 85,000 based on our prior folks that were in this position. And what that means is that there is a gap between Ms. Clee's salary and what we would potentially hire a new person that we don't have in our budget. And so because this position is bringing in significant grant funds, we've already established that we will be saving the county through this position $5 million over the next 25 years, which is $200,000 a year. We have a federal grant that's coming in of almost $200,000. That's going to save our building management with their LED conversion. And so as we move forward, we see more and more grant opportunities that this position is going to save the county significant dollars. So I'm asking today, understanding, and if there's a different procedure I should be going through, let me know. But having posted this position, we want to be able to get somebody on board as soon as possible due to the number of projects we have currently ongoing. But I would need the county board's support for a budget adjustment for this position.
Thank you, Ms. Wolnick. What do you need from us right now?
I believe I need a consensus from you to continue forward with the applicants and to be able to make an offer. It would be contingent on the county board, however, approving a budget adjustment. And I don't know if there's any other way to do this. And that's where I'm struggling with the budget policy, is it didn't really address this. Because that means if we interview somebody and we've got a great candidate, I can't onboard them for about 2 months while it goes through the county board process. There's no reserve fund for folks, like I said, even posting a position with the same range as it had previously. There's no reserve in my salaries to be able to even to offer somebody at that higher end of the range. So I'm a little confused as to how I proceed forward, and I've kind of been watching the other committees. I know some of the other bigger departments have a little bit more leeway within their salaries, and we just don't. We're paying exactly, our salary budget line item is exactly what our salaries are. So I don't know. I think there's a bigger discussion at the county board level that was maybe left out of that county board policy, that if you hire somebody right out of college and then that person leaves, that you're stuck hiring somebody right out of college, or you're going over budget. So that's the part that I'm a little confused about in regards to the budget policy, but I want to make sure that I'm making the county board aware and making sure I'm following the correct procedure for this, and making sure that I'm not stuck at a lower end of a salary range where I can't post even the same position we posted 3 years ago because I don't have it in my budget.
Any suggestions?
Have you talked to Jamie at all?
I have not, because I think it's a bigger board decision.
understand,
Yeah, it's
but
a
just to
it's
get
this
some-
budget
Just to
policy.
get some information from her would be
Maybe
helpful.
finance.
Yeah.
Mr. Caius, are you leaning forward to say something
Kind of,
brilliant?
yeah, I think we need more direction from staff. We're not, well, or, I mean, we do determine the policy, but we need to know what our options are. To ask us what the options are, at least in my case, is kind of futile because I don't know.
I'm not asking you the options. I'm asking for your support of a budget adjustment, because at the end of the day, I don't have the budget in my salary items to even offer that same range as I did before. And so without any other kind of policy being addressed in the budget policy that you passed, the only option I would have is to go through a budget amendment and have that person wait the 2 months, because there's no faster path that was established through the budget policy.
Okay,
So- I would ask the chair to ask for a consensus to support whatever it is that we need to have the salary range to get the position. It obviously is a position with a capable individual that is
Okay.
going to save the county money.
Have you
okay, I'm going to repeat what I heard Mr. Caius say. May I have consensus from the committee that the position that we are trying to replace Ivy Clee with would be able to go through a budget adjustment process so that we could offer a higher range salary for the candidate?
Can I
And-
ask some questions first?
Okay,
All right, I just want to confirm. Here, I gotta blow it up here so I can read it. Right now, the salary range you posted is 70 to 85,000. How many have you gotten any applications?
We have gotten an amazing group of applicants. One of them is actually asking for 90 because they're making 120 right now. And they are at the same level that the $91,000 prior employee, education wise and background wise is.
So in that case, it'd be 5,000 more.
Correct. Yeah, if that was the person that we were
And-
moving forward
and
with.
what's the budget line item right now for Ivy?
It is 52. It's a
Okay.
significant difference. That's why I'm bringing
Yeah.
it forward.
Right.
So we want to bump from 52 up to 90.
Based on the
Possibly.
prior salaries within that position, correct?
Mhm. Is that enough information for you, Mr. Roth?
Well, how did it, and there, I gotta be careful how I ask this question. If we're saying it's 90, but how did it get set to 50?
It got set to 50 because Miss Clee was directly out of college. The
Okay.
person that was
So
at
she came in
90
at a lower.
had about
rate,
20 years worth of experience,
So the
correct?
prior
And an
person-
engineering degree, correct?
And the
yes.
prior person had more. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Now
And that's what I'm struggling with, is there's this wide range. And we're kind of back in the environment where there's lots of funding, lots of grants, lots of projects going on. We had a number of years that we had very limited projects. And so it kind of warranted those lower salaries because we weren't able to bring the revenue and the savings into the county. We have many, many years of these programs where the funding is going to be available to be able to save the county a lot of money, bringing in a lot of grants
And use
for
it
that
outside.
that we've already done basically, and we've already set forward for the next 25 years savings wise for the county.
Right.
And so it's warranted a higher level of position at this time.
Okay. And what's your confident level that we can get those additional grants and in what time frame?
I would say 90 to 100%. I mean, we've already with very little effort gotten the $200,000
And could we
one.
make use of our lobbyists that we're trying to hire to help us?
We could,
I mean,
we've-
that's what
yeah,
they're,
yeah.
Pardon me?
well, use the lobbyists we're trying to hire is the part of their goal, or the goal of that lobbyist would be help us get grants, I would think.
That might be in the deal. These are pretty, the person we hire will probably be an expert, will hopefully become, or will already be an expert on
Well, yeah,
these
that's,
grants.
there again,
Okay.
I said prior, if a lobbyist isn't bringing in 10 times what we're paying them, fire them. I mean, because there's so much money out there.
Yeah,
They should be helping.
this is
us
the
a lot.
moment.
I mean,
Yes.
and potentially if the board was willing, or the committee was willing, and we could make the July county board meeting, we could possibly, if we had somebody that was available quickly, we could possibly work with Ms. Bates and pull the committee to see if a special E&E committee is warranted to send through that budget resolution, so we could compress that time frame a little bit.
I'm eager to move this meeting along since I'm looking at like 20 people
You're getting
sitting
dirty
out there
looks, right?
and I see Miss Lewis going back and forth.
I
And we
told
have
them-
2 more topics.
I told them
so-
10:15.
Okay, thank you. You are always very patient on the outside.
All right, that answered my questions.
But you're, okay. So I would like the consensus of just the nods of the heads that we can move this forward and that will help you get the money when the time comes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, maybe we move on to Miss Heidi Klee's report.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you pass me I'm gonna give some program updates on some of the projects going on. So we have the Judicial Center Solar Project. I put a bunch of pictures up. The concrete piles are complete. Electrical work is being done on the outside of the field and inside the building. They are telling us each week that the panels should be up shortly. So hopefully we'll be able to see those soon. They're on site. There's a photo to the right. They're pretty big. So and they're all stacked up on the field, ready to go. We are working on having a third-party inspector to confirm electrical work being done by the solar company. And we also just completed a fence walkthrough to confirm placement of the upgraded fence in areas where the neighbors can see the fence. Here's some more photos on the left-hand upper corner. That's just a view of what it looks like. The racking's all complete, and then they have the solar panels stacked up, ready to go whenever they can get those up. And then we have some of the electrical work on the right upper corner. There's really a lot of, it looks very different from over the winter. So we're pleased to see progress.
It doesn't look like a porcupine anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question on, the project was on hold initially because of what, the controllers or electrical?
Yeah, we were waiting on a
Have
one
those
week
come in?
electrical. Yes,
Okay.
those have arrived. They were waiting on a delivery in April for
Alrighty,
electrical
thank you.
equipment.
Okay,
And a quick update on an event that we held in partnership with purchasing and that Claire also helped me organize, as well as building management. We did an office supply swap. We collected a bunch of different office supplies, and this was the first time that the event has been brought back to the county since COVID. It was a very big success. We got a ton of supplies, and there was a lot of folks who came to pick up new supplies, as well as drop off and donate stuff that they didn't want anymore. So we worked with purchasing, building management to kind of recycle and dispose of supplies that were no longer needed by the county. And we were also able to organize a donation to Anderson Humane Animal Shelter That's a photo of all the material in my car that we dropped off. So it was on the whole a success and really fun to see all the supplies come in. This is what the lower auditorium looked
My
like.
gosh.
We got a ton of stuff.
How did you pick Anderson Humane as a?
So we had a lot of binders and desk organizers, and we were trying to figure out, and I did a lot of contacting local nonprofit organizations, so public sector organizations who might be interested in a donation of that supplies. At first, when we talked with the attorney's office, they did not want us to donate any supplies. They wanted us to store it at the county for future use. But a lot of the people donating and giving us those supplies, they just had boxes and boxes of stuff that they weren't using. And we don't have the space at the county to be able to store that for future use. So afterward, it was determined that it was purchasing departments had the final say to be able to confirm how to properly dispose of material. And we got the okay from them to donate supplies. But at that point, it was after the event. We had to clear out the room. So we kind of had to work quickly. And I just made a lot of phone calls to see. I called animal control to see if they wanted anything, and they recommended me to Anderson Humane. So
Okay.
that's how we got connected.
Okay, I mean, could we add other nonprofits going forward?
Yes.
I would ask that we add Air Classics. I mean, we're small.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
wouldn't take a lot, but
Mhm. There was a lot of good office supplies that came
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
we operate on
Okay,
a shoestring.
thank
shop,
you.
so Thank you.
Thanks. We'll dim some for you next time,
Thank you.
Joe. Okay.
And a quick update on the climate action implementation plan. Yesterday, we had the kickoff meeting for our climate action team. We had just over, I think, 45 folks attend, which was really awesome. We had a great turnout. It was a really awesome event. Our consultant put on a presentation for the first half of the event to kind of set expectations for what the team will look like, as well as what the team hopes to accomplish over the course of the next couple months. And then we went around the room and everyone introduced themselves, as well as why they were interested in participating in the team. And I think after the event, I am confident that we have a really nice, diverse group of folks who have a wealth of knowledge in varying different expertise. So it was a really wonderful event. We were very pleased. And I just have some information on what the plan looks like.
We needed more chairs.
Yeah, we were
We
we needed more
out of
chairs.
the corners.
It
was wonderful.
It was wonderful. It was really awesome.
Mavis, you had verbally mentioned that, but I didn't see anything come across an email about that event.
So that event was by invitation only for climate action team members. And there are the majority of, so the way that the team was composed, it's half of the team is King County staff members from different departments. So transportation, development, health department, so that we ensure we have folks who have a regional expertise in different sectors. And then we also have folks from municipalities and local organizations. And then we also have a group of public citizens who volunteer to be a part of the team. There is a big time commitment. So I think that when we sent out the initial first invitation, a lot of folks replied, that's not going to work for me. I can't make that time commitment. So that's the way that the team was created. And the idea is to have a nice diverse representation of both the members of the public as well as folks who are working and implementing the eventual strategies and goals that will come out of the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And I also included, this is a kind of overview of what each workshop will look like. There's a total of 8 and they will be once a month for a couple hours each time, and each workshop will focus on different discussions and working through discussion questions in small groups so that we can really get down deep into the details of what's going on and brainstorm solutions to problems that are going on. And then I did include a couple of slides of some photos. I did just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to work with this committee. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to report to you all. And I'm excited to see all of the projects, what happens in the future, and I will definitely stay in touch. I'm so grateful for this opportunity and to be able to work with Department of Environment and Water Resources. It's been a real pleasure over the last 2.5 years.
This is great. Oh, Ivy.
Thank you, Ivy.
Send money from the EPA.
We're hoping that Ivy will be in a position to help us get a lot of grants.
What department are you going to? EPA?
I'm working in the Clean Air Division, and I'll be administering the Climate Pollution Reduction Grants Program.
Good luck.
I did also make some banana bread as a parting gift, so please feel free to help yourself.
Thank you.
Yes, we're hoping we are going to have good friends in high places with Ivy at the EPA. Please, Ms. Miller, go ahead with
Oh,
your
sure.
report.
Thank you. I'm Karen Miller. I'm a planner with the Development Department. I apologize. I neglected to put my name on my title slide. Chairman Bates had
Oh,
asked
no
me,
ego here.
pardon me,
No ego here.
Chairman Bates asked me to review with you the procedure to develop an urban forest management plan and tree preservation ordinance for unincorporated Kane County as suggested by the Chicago Region Trees Initiative. I am a co-chair of the Trees and Green Infrastructure Working Group that is part of the Chicago Region Trees Initiative, or CRTI, which is through the Morton Arboretum.
Aaron, make sure you're talking in your
Mike.
mic so we.
Oh,
can-
I'm sorry.
I'm sure everybody
Sure.
wants to hear this, so.
Okay. Let's see if I'm pressing the right. Whoop, okay, there we go. So this is a list of the items that are suggested to complete these projects. First, obtain consensus from E&E Committee and the Kane County Board. Determine funding source to hire a consultant. It is highly recommended that we do hire a consultant for these two projects. Determine staff capacity to assist the consultant. Develop and disseminate a request for proposal or request for qualifications for an International Society of Arboriculture certified contractor with experience. And CRTI would be able to provide us with some examples of RFPs that have been used in the past. Follow Chicago Region Trees Initiative template to develop an urban forest management plan. Set goals for the tree preservation ordinance, and then using the CRTI tree preservation ordinance builder, which was recently completed by our working group, to co-create an urban forest management plan and tree preservation ordinance at the same time. It used to be that CRTI was recommending that the urban forest management plan was developed first and then the ordinance later to fit in. But now they are recommending that both are created at the same time.
So that would speed up a timeline.
It would, yes.
considerably, wouldn't it?
Let's see. Okay, and here are some other Kane County documents that have been developed over the years that would assist us in development of an urban forest management plan. The more credibility that you can bring to a plan and show what work has been done in the past and how something like an urban forest management plan would fit into, for instance, the Kane County's 2040 plan, the more successful you can be in obtaining consensus and implementation of your plan, and also for any grants that you would apply for. So these plans include the Kane County 2040 plan, the Kane County 2040 Green Infrastructure Plan, and the Kane County Stormwater Management Ordinance. There's other tools that have been developed by CRTI to assist, including the Oak Ecosystem Recovery Plan, the Kane County Canopy Cover Map, the 2020 Tree Census, the Pre-Settlement Vegetation Map, the Kane County Priority Oak Ecosystem Map, and various brochures to educate the public about the value and care of trees. Today, Ben Haberther is here from the Forest Preserve with us to provide us some input on this process.
I will be very, very quick here. Yeah, I'm Ben Haberther. I'm the Executive Director of the Forest Preserve District of King County. This is so on brand for the Forest Preserve District. It's, silly. We're highly in support of protecting trees and the natural resources of the county. We've been a charter member of all of those organizations since the very beginning. And just a couple quick facts: that pre-settlement vegetation map that happened in 1837. That was the first kind of European settlement of the time. They documented the trees that were here. From then till now,
What year? 18?
37, the government land office documented the oak hickory woodlands that was here. From then till now, we've lost over 90% of our oaks in King County and their associated species. So for every one tree you see out there, 9 are missing. Of that one tree left, that 10%, it's fragmented and scattered across the county. So we've done studies to show what ecologically viable woodlands remain, 50 acres or more, and we're in the dozens. There's the teens, I should say. There's just not a lot out there. So any sort of ordinance this committee is evaluating, it was within the mission of the Forest Preserve District to support that. We don't currently have any ISA certified arborists on staff, but that's a pretty straightforward certification for some of our ranger and natural resource staff. So I would mention if there's a cost saving measure there, we might be able to do some of that work on behalf of the county, as well as some of the administration. I shouldn't say this is completely selfless. Some of the other Forest Preserve districts are administering members of their county's tree protection ordinances, and some of that fee in lieu money that helps support when trees absolutely have to be cut down or are deemed are chosen to be cut down. There's fees that go to that Forest Preserve district, which can support replanting efforts. Things like 100 to 1 for pre-settlement oak, another 100 oaks going out. there.
It should be like 1,000 to 1.
Sure, but and
But
we can
100
help
would, okay.
research what's appropriate for
Replanting.
mitigating. But I could talk
Okay.
all day about that, but I just appreciate the
Thank
opportunity.
you
to
for
speak.
being here, Mr. Haberther. We're excited to have the Forest Preserve muscle on board. Ms. Miller, are you, is that your last slide?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to go to the pictures?
I think Blair has them. They're not on. Oh, I'm sorry. I could probably do that.
Actually, Ms. Miller and I can talk to this. Did you want to say something first, Mr. Kice?
No, just as president of the Forest Preserve, I thought that I would just kick in and say, I think this is a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President of the Forest Preserve. And
But I only have one vote, so I'm here to help push
Okay.
wherever I can to support this.
This tree, these are a few pictures I took of some trees that are located in Geneva. And Mr. Brian Maher is here. He's a neighbor of these trees and brought this urgency to our attention that many of these trees are on land that could become warehouses. And I don't know what we can do right now to save these particular trees, but we're going to try whatever is in our power. And let us make these trees a symbol of the need for a tree preservation ordinance going into the future. Next, so this is just the magnificence of these trees. I snapped these. Mr. Maher is offering rides on his ATV vehicle to show us these just beautiful, magnificent, huge trees, probably hundreds of years old. Next slide, please, Blair. I mean, these are big trees, 5 feet in diameter, maybe. Next slide, please. I'm not sure exactly what this means, but many of the trees in this forest have pink tags on them. I believe they're being inventoried for cutting down, I imagine. Next slide, please. This is an X. Do you see the X? You have to look. Many trees have an X painted on them. So these trees are not just endangered, but in danger. And I don't know what we can do about this right now, but we're going to try to find out. So do you have anything else you want to say? I have one more thing I want to say. May I have a consensus from this committee to move forward on everything that Ms. Miller presented to us, trying to get a consultant, trying to get a plan. Would you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Well, we have to determine a funding source. There may be some potential grant money that may come through the Arboretum that we could look at in the future. But to develop an RFP or an RFQ and work with CRTI to help us with developing the urban forest management plan and tree preservation ordinance in conjunction with each other.
Okay, may I have consensus for that whole plan to move it forward to a tree protection ordinance? And
Strathman says yes.
okay, Strathman is nodding her head, I think. Okay, thank you very much, committee, and we will we'll continue working with Ms. Miller. You will be able to help us with this, and Mr. Haberther and Mr. Caius and everybody in this room, right?
Ben said that he would be willing to work with me, that he offered to do that.
Okay, and I
He
love
offered to
this
do that.
this little gift you're offering us, Ben, of
It's what I'm paid to do. Yeah.
There was a reimbursement clause in there somewhere, I think, but. Yeah.
okay, I believe we are, Mr. Young,
I have one thing under new business that I'd like to
okay,
bring up real quick. During the King County Board meeting, there was a vote on the solar panel field, that large solar panel field that went through, that was gonna be right south of my house. And in the, I was doing research about solar panels. I really didn't know much about them. I know what they do but what struck me is that the person that is helping with this installation, Mr. French, I was reading some of his statements in the development committee, and he said something that kind of struck me, and I didn't know this, I'm sure you guys do, but he said this. He said, silica doesn't recycle, but we will see where the technology goes. So the silica in the thin film is what's used to create the electricity, obviously, in the solar panels. And it just struck me that even that individual who is selling these solar panels doesn't know how to recycle that. And so I don't know if that's the case or not. And I did some research and I found out that to remove the silica from the solar panels, it's very complex and it involves heating the material up to 500 degrees C. So how do you handle that? I don't know. I'm bringing this question to whoever, but I'd like to know, maybe we could talk about it in the next meeting or something, but how do you recycle these solar panels? Because they're going up everywhere. And then when you do recycle them, after 20 years, they need to be taken out of use, 20, 25 years. And that's just the way it is. So what happens with this
Brian,
silica?
to the rescue.
Would you all like to hear about this next time? Because I'm
Please,
sure I
that
could
would
put
be-
something together by
That would
next
be
time.
great. That would be great. Because we're putting solar panels up everywhere and then I'm hearing this and I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
what happens
I'd-
here?
I'd love to learn more about it myself. I mean, from all I know, you're absolutely right. There is no widespread recycling for these panels. So
All right.
more next time.
Okay.
So
ton
we
of
also have the
research
same
about it.
issue with the windmills or the,
Okay, you might throw.
And lithium ion batteries.
Exactly. Well, yeah, all the batteries from the electric vehicles.
And
So-
coal ash. You can't recycle coal ash either.
You can use it on your driveway if you want.
Oh, you're right. Heavy metal.
Gonna put a whole, no, you can't. Claire, please don't say that. That was a joke.
A good idea.
To just say it's a joke, it's carcinogenic. Your little paws and your little feet would be bringing carcinogenic material.
Point of
from-
order.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can I move to place the order?
Yes, you may.
I would ask for consensus to put the reports on
Yes.
file
Okay,
without objection.
any executive, I believe there's no executive session needed. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Roth will move to adjourn.
Thank you. Mr.
Caius will
Roth.
second.
Caius second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.